The interactive capabilities of reports in Power BI are endless. It can seem overwhelming sometimes. In this video, we will walk you through some of the basic interactions with visuals in Power BI, beginning with page navigation and slicers.
Okay, so I want to show you page navigation and slicers using this returns analysis report in Power BI service. So page navigation, if your report has multiple pages, then you will see them listed here on this page navigation panel on the left-hand side. Super easy, you just click on the pages to navigate between them. Now, you may have noticed this panel of buttons right here. It is called a page navigator, and it looks very similar to our page navigation on the left-hand side. Now, this page navigator is an optional visual that the designer has chosen to include just as another way for users to switch between pages. A lot of reports will not include this, so oftentimes you will just see the navigator on the left-hand side. However, this report has this page navigator, so let's test it out. We can see that it works the exact same way as the left-hand side page navigator. So page navigation, super easy with Power BI. Let's talk about slicers. Slicers are basically visuals whose primary function is to filter other visuals on a report page. So here we have two drop-down slicers, one for regional manager and one for product category. So let's go ahead and click the regional manager drop-down and select Cassandra Brandout to test it out. So we can see that both of these visuals have changed, presumably to show just the orders associated with Cassandra Brandout. So the slicer has effectively filtered the data in these visuals to show just Cassandra Brandow as the regional manager, just those orders. It won't always be the case that all the visuals on a page are connected to your slicer. You may have just one visual that is connected to a slicer, but in this case, we can assume both of them are. Now, to clear the selection, you can just uncheck your selection, super easy, and as you can see, now we're seeing all regional managers. There are other ways to clear slicer selections that we will cover, so let's look at this category. Same type of slicer, also a drop down, and let's select technology. And we see once again that this slicer is affecting both of these visuals in the report, so it's probably connected to both of them. Let's look at another way we can clear slicer selections. So if you hover over the corner here in the slicer, you may be able to see this eraser icon. It's kind of faint, but you'll definitely see where it says clear selections. And if you just press that icon, it's an eraser icon and it clears the selections from this slicer. So that's another way to clear slicers. Lastly, on this particular page for slicers, we see this ship date slicer, which is a relative date slicer. That means obviously that it filters the visuals based on a ship date, in this case, relative to the current date. And we can select options here, 3 different options. We can look at the past, current, or future dates with last, next, or this. We can enter a number and we can select a unit of time. So since this is an older report, let's go ahead and look at the last 5 years. And we can see that this slicer did apply to our visuals. Here we're just seeing 2017 returns and this pie graph changed as well. So basically that's how the relative date slicer works. Let's look at yet another way to clear slicers. We have this button that resets all slicers and filters that have been acting on your report. So this can be handy if you have a report with many pages and many slicers, and it can be hard to keep track sometimes of what slicers you've set and which ones you've remembered to clear. So if you just want to reset everything to default, go up to the top menu and over to the right hand side to this yellow highlighted arrow and click this to reset to default. So press reset and it will reset all slicers in your report to the default state, showing us all data. You may have noticed that these slicers here seem to appear on our details page. In particular, if we select an option, for example, furniture, select furniture category on this page, and we go over to our other page, we notice that our selection is still there. So you might be tricked into thinking that we haven't actually switched pages, that there's some kind of tabs in the report that we're switching between, and that we're actually still on the same page. But that is a trick the developer can use to create the effect of having these tabs with the page navigator button and the slicers, which are actually copies. So there's two sets of slicers, one set on each page, and they are synced. One set was copied from the other, and they were set up to be synced so that whenever one slicer is changed, the changes will be reflected on the copy on the other page. So that can be a little confusing, but in that way, slicers sort of can affect the visuals on multiple pages. If you have a situation like this with synced slicers where the slicers on one page are affecting slicers on the other pages, and if those slicers on the other pages are also connected to the visuals, then you could sort of use the slicers on one page to filter all the visuals, but just be aware that that's not always the case. Basically, that's it for this lesson on slicers. There are many other types of slicers, but they're all pretty intuitive to use. They just enable you to filter the data in the report, just providing another way to analyze the data at different levels of detail. In our next lesson, we will talk about another way to filter visuals in reports using other visuals also in the report with a feature called cross filtering. So stay tuned for that.